Tuesday, May 14th, and I am Tony from Elizabeth Inman Ministries to do some noon nuggets today. And I would like to share with you from John 8, verses 1 through 11 today. This is the story where the scribes and Pharisees brought this woman before Jesus. She was in the act of adultery when they caught her. And they brought her to Jesus and said, the law of Moses says we stone her. What do you say? So what they were trying to do is trick him, because if he said don't stone her, he was going against the law of Moses. He was going against their laws. If he said, okay, stone her, he was going against the Romans, because they did not allow the Jewish community, they did not allow them to do their own punishments and those type things. So they thought either way they could trap him pretty good. And there's multiple times in the Bible where they tried that and it never worked. So rather than answer, Jesus stooped down to the ground and just started writing with his finger on the ground. And so they pressed a little harder. So, what do you say? So he simply looked up and said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So what he was doing was pointing out that they all had sins too. And he doesn't see, well, this is this one and this is that. And he doesn't grade or rank sins like humans do. We tend to be like, well, murder's worse than theft, or things like that we rank and grade them in our own eyes. And he does not do that. And that's such an important point, because that lie that I told is as bad in his eyes. It's sin, just like the adultery she was in. Sin is sin to him. We're the ones that in our flesh that try to rank it, justify it some kind of way. It's not as bad as, but that's not right. That we can't do that. That's not of him. He sees sin as sin. So he was reminding them, none of them were any better than her, basically. As for what he was writing on the ground, now we have to be very careful speculating about the Bible. And in this case, information that's not there. What he wrote on the ground isn't told. It just says he wrote. It doesn't say what he wrote. So, of course, curiosity, we all want to think about, and what would he have written, and we just have to be very careful with speculation. I've heard it through the years in different sermons and such, people that I think the widespread speculation is that he probably wrote their sins and their names, that he knew them and knew the sins he was talking about that weren't any better than hers. He knew what was in their hearts and their lives. A while back, it occurred to me that what if that's absolutely off track? What if what he wrote is her name, that he knew her? Because, see, we don't always think he knows us, and especially when we don't know him. And she didn't know him. She was in this sinful life, and she obviously didn't know him. So we think he don't know us. We can be convinced of that rather easily by the devil, that you're not known. He knows every bit of his creation. He knows us. He knew us before we were even knit in our mother's womb. We were created by him. He knows us. But he wrote her name, just assuring her, hey, I know who you are. And then maybe he wrote his thoughts of her. The Bible says he has thoughts of us. So maybe he wrote his thoughts of her, that she was beautiful, that she was loved, that she was created by him. Just a possibility that it really spoke to my heart when those thoughts started processing in my mind, that maybe look at it like that. And I would just like to share that with you, as I said, very carefully. But it was a thought he gave me that brought me comfort and peace. But then he looked up again, and where are her accusers? One by one, they had left. They didn't stick around. And so he looked at her and he said, where are your accusers? She said, they're gone, Lord. And he said, I do not condemn you either. Go and sin no more. So right there, he's telling her she was not condemned. And he says he came into this world not to condemn, but to save it. So he did not condemn her. And yet, we, in our flesh, like to point out the sins of others, just like these leaders did. We like to point out the sins of others and try to make ourselves we're better than that and try to condemn them. But that's not Jesus. What he showed her was love, forgiveness, protection. He protected her from that crowd that was wanting to stone her. So those are the things he showed her. Those are the things we should mirror to others that we see and that we know their sins. We see people and we might know things, that how they live and know things, and we like to condemn and we like to talk about them and make sure other people condemn them too. That's what the flesh does. But that's not the example that Jesus set here today. The example he set here today was mercy, forgiveness, cleansing, and a fresh new start. If she would believe that he just said, you are not condemned, she would believe in him and whatever it is that was written on the ground. There was something in that writing that was for her. So putting all that together, if she would just receive that, believe it, and know and trust, she was not condemned. And then he gave her this very important commandment, go and sin no more. He protected her from that crowd. He told her, I don't condemn you. Which means she had to make changes to be obedient to him. She had to go and sin no more. She had to walk away from that sin. We can't decide that, well, this is our favorite sin, and keep doing it and then still claim to be his. In order for everything he just offered her to be accepted by her, she had to go and sin no more. And now, none of us are perfect, and we all sin, and we're going to stumble. But he forgives and loves. And if we seek him and continue striving to be obedient and to follow him, he can deliver us from those things that seem to stay on our radar the most and distract us and get our attention and get us off of his path. Everybody has certain things that will distract and get you off path. And so focusing on him and trying to walk in him is how we do better. And he knows that our flesh will stray. And he gives mercy and forgiveness. His mercies are new every single day. He gives mercy and forgiveness just like he did to her. But she had to make the effort to live as his, to change that lifestyle. That's what he's talking about. He didn't expect her to never ever sin again. And what he wanted was for her to go back around and tell those gentlemen she was with, nope, no more. She had to go and walk in him and walk better. This is what he gave her, a fresh new start, without condemnation and punishment and hurt. He simply protected her and then said, I don't have any condemnation for you, but sin no more. Go and sin no more. Because that's his love, his mercy. And even knowing that we are going to mess up at times and we are going to sin, his love is still there. His love is still there. He doesn't let that deter him from loving us. And he will forgive and cleanse, but we are obligated to make the effort. You guys have a wonderful day.